Hall of Trials is back. It's Yufine again, which they kind of announced when they showed the Dagger Sakara mission updates. She looks a little bit different though, because in the advantages we don't have the mage buff anymore, which was intended for Mage Luna. Ended up being used by Guider Aether, and in the end it somehow became really degenerate Ice Add-in gameplay. This time, it is this big paragraph for Soul Weavers. You see Soul Weaver, you see Fighting Spirit. It's young Senya, there's no other Soul Weaver with Fighting Spirit. So they're definitely doing the thing that a lot of other games do, where the newest unit, at least for RGBs in Epic 7, are going to be pretty good for Hall of Trials. So, this one just says, you get Spirit's Grace, this I'll show once we get to the fight. And you come into Draconic Seal, which I'll go over and when we look at AYufi Skills. When the boss is exhausted, you get 60 Fighting Spirit. And then when the target granted Spirit's Grace, so just Senya, uses an extra attack after being attacked, her S2, recovers health of all allies and activates Requite for 1 turn before fully resetting S2 cooldowns of all allies except for the caster. And then you're going to want 2 Earth Elemental heroes to get the usual bonuses. So, I'm going to take a look at the team. This is the team found by Elusual, Brieg, Doris, Lilka, Young Senya. This is a really accessible team because it's free unit, 3-star, 3-star, and then the current limited unit who's also really, really good, so worth a pickup for sure. The problem with this team is I guess there's just something wrong with Abyssal Yufine, because last time we had Ice add-in, and this time the most important thing in this team, the units, of course, you need these 4 units. And then what else do you need? It's kind of gear, but more important than gear, you need a lot of RAM. Because there is a memory leak in Hall of Trials. I don't know how many of you have done really long Hall of Trials sessions, but as you keep on doing Hall of Trials, you'll start visibly noticing some lag that occurs. And it's just because the memory keeps stacking up. I used to have issues where I try to do Arena after doing Hall of Trials and I'd crash. So I've kind of gotten in the habit of restarting my game every single time I finish doing Hall of Trials for the rotation. But now with the PC client, we can actually visually see how much RAM is being used. So you can watch this little number here go up as the video progresses. So we've got the team here, and now let's take a look at AYufi Skills and the stats of the team. So first, let's go over the skills since it's the first rotation. The important thing really is her S1 is her S2. It's just an AoE, 2 burn effects, nothing really special. S1 just hits the front row and you're going to want a knight in the front slot, because if it's not a knight, it'll deal extra damage to all enemies and increases additional damage dealt. Hits front row first, so just put a knight in the front row and you can ignore this. Her S3 though, dispels all buffs from all allies and then deals fixed damage. So you can't really block the damage with defense buff or barrier or anything. And you're going to want a little bit of bulk on your DPS just to survive this if you plan on pushing for really high scores. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. So we can take a look at her Inner Abyss. When attacking, increases hit chance by 100%, so no dodge cheesing and you can't crit. This is nice as usual, just makes the damage really consistent so you're not having to worry about if you get crit or not for how you can tank. You ignore F-Res. When using this skill, it's probably all of her skills. All of her skills ignore F-Res, I'm pretty sure. That's confusing. Anyways, 10% CR when somebody ends a turn if she's not exhausted. And then she gets stackable increased attack and speed as usual at the end of her turn. This is the important one though. So, she's got the Draconic Seal, which is the one that Senya's immune to. She is, well, anybody besides Senya can't trigger extra turns and can't trigger extra attacks. And also, of course, there's the usual seal effect when they can't have passives. So pretty much Senya's the only one who's going to be able to use her extra turns and her extra attack from her S2. Also, no dual attacks like every Hall of Trials has now, and reduces the effect of lifesteal. At the start of the turn, when granted debuff nullifier, turns it into a 4-time debuff nullifier, and this is something related to her S3. It's just, she'll open with her S3, and she'll get Manic Trauma. Manic Trauma is the thing that pretty much all Hop Trials have been leaning into, where it's just you pretty much just chill the first 2 or 3 turns, wait for something to happen, they have a little mechanic to play around, and then you go into break phase. So this time the mechanic is just this debuff nullifier. It's just, you have to hit her 4 times in 1 turn with debuffs that she can be hit by, and artifacts do not work. So these are the debuffs that she's immune to. Something like Brieg S3, it's got Death Break and it's got Speed Down. Death Break won't decrease the debuff nullifier, it'll stay at 4, and then Speed Down will, so it'll go down at 3. So just something like that, you have to make sure she's actually able to be hit by said debuffs, or the debuff nullifier won't go down. And then I say in 1 turn because if she takes a turn and she still has it, it'll go back to 4. So you have to make sure you time your debuffs at the right time. Also, there is the ads. These are pretty important. It's just when the boss is exhausted, every 3 attacks that she suffers, they'll counter with a basic skill. And also they'll open with the basic skill the second the boss gets exhausted. And their basic is an AoE. So basically every single time you hit Euphine 3 times, and also at the start of the break phase, they'll use 2 AoEs and give Senya 40 Fighting Spirit. And in the boss features, it mentioned that when the boss is exhausted, she gets 60, so 60 plus 40, she'll just instantly use S2 at the start of the break phase, pretty much. Now we can get into our stats, starting with young Senya, because she is the most important one here, pretty much. You want her to be your, I think, 2nd highest HP unit, just because Brieg in the front slot ends up taking so much damage, I found it better to give him the most HP. So you give her your 2nd priority on HP gear, and then Artifact, I'm using her personal one to increase her HP and Brieg's HP. For imprint, if you have her imprinted, use the team one, because her F-res is pretty useless. This will increase Brieg's HP, and also you can put Lilka in the top slot and increase her HP as well. For Molas, I don't think you actually need anything. Like, this is pretty much needed if you're using her for Arena, but this doesn't actually have any effect in Hall of Trials. So if you're just using it for her Hall of Trials and you're not grazing her, you don't need to actually Mohol her or anything. This doesn't really matter either. We take a look at Brieg next, her partner. This is just because Brieg is a knight, and he's got that non-attack skill on S2. And then really high HP. Let's build them with as much HP as possible to increase the damage on Senya's S2. And then with Warhorn, increase Lilka's damage as well. Now we've got Doris. Nice little team HP imprint. Pretty much everybody benefits from this. And it's got her speed, HP. Pretty much any speed set with a bit of HP will do. Her stats don't really matter too much. And I've got her with Card of Small Miracles just for the attack boost. You could use Fan of Light and Darkness if you need the crit damage buff, but my Lilka is pretty much at the crit damage cap, I think, so don't really have a use for it. Now we can take a look at Lilka. Lilka's got a lot of things going for her. For the stats though, you just build her full damage, not too much to think about, with the Cruel Mischief artifact as usual. You do want probably more HP than I have if you're aiming for a super high score, just because of the ramping, the usual attack stacking on Euphine's S3. It starts doing a good amount of damage. You probably want to hit 9k, I would say, before imprints. Just so you don't get one shot by the S3 coming out of the 2nd break phase. And then Lilka, she's got 2 debuffs on her S3 for the debuff nullification thing. Non-attack skill on her S2. Brieg has got 1 debuff on his S3 since she's immune to Death Break, so it's just the speed down. And non-attack skill on his S2. And then Doris has got blind on her S1, and then non-attack skill on her S2 as well. And I mentioned the non-attack skills because this is what leads to what I would say is the really degenerate gameplay part of this, and why I'm probably not gonna bother aiming for top 100. Like, I'll do the run and I'll show you guys the general setup for it. You do still want to maximize your damage with Lilka, so I'll show you how to do that. And then I'll let it play out for maybe an hour, and we'll see how it goes. So combined with the memory leak and that whole Senya's S2 resetting your S2s and everybody having an on-attack skill, there is a little buff that Senya gets where when somebody uses an on-attack skill, she will get 40 fighting spirit. So you can actually just infinitely loop the non-attack skills on their S2s and Senya proccing her S2, and that's why the scores are so super inflated. And that's also why the most important thing is to have a lot of RAM, because with the memory leak, that memory use is going to keep on going up. Eventually your game is going to crash. So it's kind of just how long do you think your computer can hold out, and are you able to end the run at the correct time? Because if you end the run too late, your game is going to crash and your score is not going to record. So let's go into the fight. I'll explain some of the in-fight mechanics, or the in-fight buffs that we can't see yet. I'll go through the first break phase, and then I'll let it auto for a bit, and that's it. So, coming into the first phase, she opens with her S3. And you can see we've got this Draconic Seal. So no passive effects, no extra attacks, and no extra turns. Now we can finally take a look at this Spirit's Grace. So when the boss is exhausted, attacks do not increase weakness gauge. This just means that you can keep on hitting Yufine with her S1s. So that thing where you hit Yufine 3 times and then the adds counter, that's going to all be done with Senya's S1s and her S2s. You also get target weakness to the ally with the highest attack, except for the caster at the start of the turn, so that'll be Lilka. Target weakness becomes enhanced proportional to the number of turns started and resets the number of turns started when exhaustion is dispelled. Pretty much. I'll stack up to 5 times. We can take a look at it once we actually enter the break phase. So you're going to want to stack it up 5 times by taking turns with young Senya. So we'll start at the fight. Heal up Lilka real quick. And then as usual, playing the mechanic will give you 60%. So we've got 40% left, and a hit is 5, so we need to hit her 8 times. You're going to want to manage your HP, because Lilka is going to be pretty squishy. And then aside from that, you just keep on hitting her, and we're going to wait for this thing to go away. The good thing is that this team has a lot of defensive utility, just with Brieg's Barrier, Doris Stats. So especially in the later phases, you can use those as needed in order to block stuff. So now that's gone, and we can see we've got the debuff and nullifier. So now we can S3, that's 2 gone, and here's the annoying part. Doris S1 has an 80% chance to land decreased hit chance for 1 turn. And we're gonna S1, and we landed it, great. That is also why I'm not going to do more than break 1, because the odds of you landing that 3 times, once for each phase, is about 51.2%, and I'm not going to do that, especially when I need to reset the client every single run for an optimal run. It's just not happening. So now I'm going to S3. And now we're in the break phase. So you can see the adds counter. She got 60 fighting spirit, so she hit max because she already had some. Just her thing, you can see weakling, that's the counter for how many hits they have. Now I'm going to hit 1 more time. Now it's weakling X2. So we can also see this is the target weakness, and it'll keep on going up as young Senya takes more turns. And we can see this thing here, Requit. After using an on-attack skill, increases combat readiness of the hero in the back row by 80% and gives them 40 fighting spirit before being dispelled. So we're going to use Doris S2 here, and you can see Senya jumps up, and she got from 20 to 60 fighting spirit. So this is at 2. So if we S1 here, they'll be at 3, they'll both counter. And now we can proc S2. So in order to optimize our damage, you'll want to do this in all 3 break phases if you're pushing for a super high score. You're going to let the loop play out a little bit. And then here I'm going to S2. or S3 rather. And then push her back up just to get more fighting spirit. Now I'm going to S1. So now they're at 2. And then we're going to push her up one more time. And you just want to keep on using your non-attack skills so that you don't increase the break bar. So here, going to S1. And the important thing you want to keep an eye on is the weakling count. So it's weakling 1. And here, instead of using S1, we're going to use S3. This is because Lilka's got her turn, and we can use S3 for damage. So that's one hit, and now they're at 2, and this just makes it so that the next hit with Youngseni on her S1 is going to proc her S2, and we are back in the loop. So now we're going to just keep on playing through the loop, and we are going to wait for Lilka's S3 to come back. So you can see while this loop is infinite, the damage isn't that much. That's also why I say it's good to actually deal damage with Lilka as much as you can. You can see now that she's at 5, I suppose I should have mentioned this. This is her increased damage dealt. It increases weakness gauge by an additional 26% against the boss. And also every time Smolya takes her turn, Lilka will take her turn as well. So you definitely want to watch the break bar. It's just you can hit with Lilka twice, and then you have one more hit with either Brieg or Doris if you mess up, and then a third time with Lilka. So pretty much in the first break phase, you're going to want to hit with... Let me see if Lilka's S3 is up. Okay, it is up. So we're going to proc, and then we're going to S3. So in the first and second break phase, you'll want to triple Lilka S3 to maximize damage, because even with the infinite loop, the damage is much... You get more damage per memory used, megabyte used, if you're using Lilka S3 optimally. And then in the third phase, you'll Lilka S3 twice, and then just let the infinite loop play out until you are about to crash, and then you finish your run. So now we can S3 again. And like I mentioned, because of all the RNG on Doris S1 and having to restart the client, I'm not going to do that. So from here, I'm just going to turn on auto, and I will see you guys at the end.
전개만 큐. 내가 돼. 진심 가게. 전개만 큐. 내가 돼. 진심 가게. 전개만 큐. 내가 돼. 진심 가게.
잘해야 하는데 난 한 놈만 노려. 하나, 둘, 셋.
절망을 자초하는군.
연구의 성과를 이제 아프지 않죠? 새로운 마법이 느껴지는군요. 아, 이런 건 싫어.
반항은
제 도움이 필요하신가요? 빵을 먹으면 힘이 날 거예요. 할 수 있을까?
적에게 관용을
연구의 성과를 보여드리죠. 네, 제가 한번 해볼게요.
절망을 자초하는군.
예전처럼 숨지 않아요. 보여줄까? 자꾸 괴롭히면 내 친구 될 거예요. 제로 보고만 있진 않을 거예요. 난 이런 거 별로야. 날 우습게 보는 걸까? 지키기 위해 연구하는 겁니다. 제 연구의 성과로 모두를 지켜낼 거예요.
쓸데없는 짓을 하는 때가 되었어.
제 도움이 필요하신가요?
반항은 이게 전부인가? 어리석은 탐욕을 위해 해풀 차림.
연구의 성과를 보여드리죠. 자, 어떻게든 되겠지? 데이라님을 위해서. 혼자서는 어려워도 한번 해볼게요.
쓸데없는 짓을 하는 정령왕의 힘은
저도 보고만 있진 않을 거예요. 예전처럼 숨지 않아요. 물러서지 마세요. 맞설 힘을 드릴게요. 제 도움이 필요하신가요?
절망이 자초하는
아레시아, 지금이야. 이 녀석들을 혼내줘. 네, 제가 한번 해볼게요. 이번엔 잘해야 하는 제게 맡겨주세요. 자, 전 준비됐어요. 자꾸 괴롭히면 내 친구 보낼 거예요. 저도 보고만 있진 않을 거예요. 이런 일은 자신 없지만 새로운 마법이 느껴지는 제가 치유해드릴게요. 네, 제가 한번 해볼게요. 아레시아, 지금이야. 이 녀석들을 혼내줘. 제 도움이 필요하신가요? 정성을 다해 배웠어요. 어떻게든 되겠지? 무섭구나.
적에게 관용은 필요 없지. 때가 되었다.
전 준비됐어요. 혼자서는 어려워도 이라면 해낼 수 있어요. 네, 제가 한번 해볼게요. 할 수 있을까? 날 우습게 보는 걸까? 연구의 성과를 보이지 아프지 않죠? 저도 보고만 있진 않을 거예요. 아레시아, 지금이야. 이 녀석들을 혼내줘. 제 도움이 필요하신가요? 난 이런 거 별로야. 맡겨주세요. 저도 보고만 있진 않을 거예요. 자꾸 괴롭히면 내 친구 보낼 거예요. 네, 제가 한번 해볼게요. 빵을 먹으면 힘이 날 거예요. 어떻게든 되겠지? 난 한 놈만 노려.
절망이 자초하는 건 진심을 다해야 이겠지.
지키기 위해 도움이 됐나요? 자, 전 준비됐어요. 혼자서는 어려워도 이라면 해낼 수 있어요. 제 도움이 필요하신가요? 이번엔 잘해야 이런 일은 자신 없지만 네, 제가 한번 해볼게요. 아레시아, 지금이야. 이 녀석들을 혼내줘. 저도 보고만 있진 않을 거야. 어떻게든 되겠지? 날 우습게 보는 걸까? 예전처럼 제가 치유해드릴게요. 네, 제가 한번 해볼게요. 혼자서는 어려워도 둘이라면 해낼 수 있어요. 제 도움이 필요하신가요? 난 이런 거 별로야. 무섭구나. 어두운 건 싫어. 불이 되고 있어.
반항은 이게 전부인가?
연구의 성과를 보여드리자.
쓸데없는 짓을 하는
나도 할 수 있어. 자꾸 괴롭히면 내 친구 보낼 거예요. 자, 전 준비됐어요. 새로운 마법이 느껴진다.
반항은 이게 전부인가?
저도 보고만 있진 않을 거예요.
절망이 자초하는
예전처럼 숨지 않아. 이런 건
적에게 관용은 필요 없지.
지키기 위해 연구하는 겁니다. 제 도움이 필요하신가요? 식시간이에요.
절망을 자초하는
연구의 성과를 보여드리죠. 무섭고 두렵다고 해도 포기하면 안 돼요.
반항은 이게 전부인가? 무의미한 타락을 거듭할 수 네 가치는 삼킬 뿐이다.
네, 제가 한번 해볼게요. 지금 기분이 어때? 새로운 마법이 느껴지는군요.
쓸데없는 짓을 하는 때가 되었다.
보여줄까? 지키기 위해 연구하는 겁니다. 저도 보고만 있진 않을 거예요. 하나, 둘, 셋. 누구부터 시작할까?
So yeah, that's it for the team. I realized I didn't really have a way to die, so I played out break or phase 2 as normal and actually got lucky with Doris. Just the whole thing with Doris only having a 51.2% chance to land blind all 3 times and having to restart Epic 7 every single time I fail just makes me not want to do this, especially because I have to dedicate my entire PC to Epic 7 and I can't play anything else because that'll take up memory. You can see I restarted Epic 7, so the memory is back down to a normal level now. This is just too generous for me for you to even try. If anybody is actually going to do this, good luck.